This is the Sirui Sniper 33mm.
I didn't get that.
No, not you, Siri. This is the Sirui Sniper 33mm f1.2 APS-C sensor cinema lens. And I'm sorry if that set off your phone. I feel like they should have planned for that or something. Maybe I'm just not saying the name right. S-I-R-U-I. Sirui. Yeah, Siri. What is up, my 1,871 subscribers? In this video, I'll be reviewing this lens, which is one of the most budget-friendly lenses I found on Amazon, and one that I've been using for the last couple months, and I've shot numerous short films and videos on. I'll be covering all of the specs of this lens that you're going to want to know if you're getting ready to buy it. Like, how well does the autofocus work? Is there focus breathing? And also, if you have $300 to spend on a cinema lens for your APS-C sensor camera, should it be this one? I'm covering all of those things and more, so if you want to know all about this lens, maybe if you're getting ready to buy it yourself, or if you just want to know about more lenses in general, then you can watch all the way through this video. I would really appreciate it. So I'm gonna get started right now. Really, there are only two notes about this camera body. One, it's an APS-C sensor lens, which means it's really lightweight. That also means a couple more things, but I'll get to those in a second. And two, it's the fact that it has a 58mm front filter thread. Now, essentially what the front filter thread is if you want to get an ND filter for your lens, which I 1,000,000% recommend if you want to get into filmmaking. All different ND filters have different filter sizes, so you need to get a 58mm filter thread so it can screw on very satisfyingly to your camera lens itself. If you don't know what an ND filter is and you don't know really how to use it or what the conditions are, I'm actually thinking about making a video where I'm going through how to film in daylight, all the different things that means, and that would include how to use an ND filter. So if you're curious about what that is or how to film outside, please comment down below, because I do respond to my comments, and I'm actually making this video right here because I literally got 2 comments asking me to. And right after I got that first one, I started working on the script for this video. So I'm serious, if you want a video on how to film outside in general, I would love to do that for you guys. Just let me know. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, those are really the only 2 things about the lens body that I think I need to touch on. The only other thing that I guess I could mention is the fact that the focus pulling is really smooth. However, there are not little divots in this so that you can add a follow focus machine, meaning you have to do all of the focusing manually if you want to use it. However, this is an autofocus cinema lens, so that really won't be an issue anyway. Okay, so real quick, let me explain the structure of how this video is gonna work out. First, I'm gonna cover everything that I like about this lens. Then I'm gonna cover all the things that I don't love about it. And I think you should stay till the end, because there are a couple things that if you're thinking about getting this lens, you should know before you make that purchase. But first of all, the things that I do like about it. And that's the fact, number 1, is that this is a prime APS-C sensor lens. Now, the word prime, if you don't know, essentially means that you cannot zoom in and out and change the focal length. This is a 33mm lens on an APS-C sensor camera. It means it looks like a 50mm lens, and it's stuck as 50mm. The idea is you get several prime lenses that cover all the different focal lengths. So you could get a 16mm lens, a 30mm lens, and then a 50mm lens. And on an APS-C sensor, and even on an APS-C sensor, that would cover really the different focal lengths you'll need for short films, let's say. But what is an APS-C sensor lens? Well, to put it in simple terms, this is a lens built for an APS-C sensor camera. Now, you have 2 options when you're going to buy a camera. You could buy a full frame camera or a cropped camera, or it's otherwise called Super 35 or APS-C. Essentially what that means is it's gonna crop in the image and zoom in than what it would normally look like. And you need to buy APS-C lenses to go with your camera. Because I'm filming on the Fx30, which I just made a review video for, by the way, I need an APS-C sensor lens because it's an APS-C sensor camera. Now, I like the fact that this is an APS-C sensor lens for a couple things. First of all, they're a lot cheaper than what a full frame lens is. They're also a lot smaller and lighter. It's also important to mention that this lens is f1.2. I have no idea if that's focusing or not. Essentially what that means is that the background when you're filming with this lens is going to be super blurry. Essentially, the lower the f-stop on a lens, the more blurry the background, and the higher f-stop a lens is, the less blurry the background will be. And my personal filmmaking taste is I like a blurry background because it looks more professional in some cases, so that's why I like this lens. There's also virtually no focus breathing with this lens, which I think is awesome, and autofocus is good too. Although that heavily depends on what camera you have, I can say for certain that I haven't had any issues with autofocusing on the Sony Fx30. And when doing research, I didn't find any evidence that there's any focusing issues on any other cameras as well. That is to say, autofocus works great on this camera if you're not taking photos with it, but I'll get into what I mean by that later. When I was testing the manual focus for this lens, I also found that was very smooth and satisfying as well. Okay, so here is a sharpness test done by Jason Morris. The result was that while it wasn't the sharpest lens, it wasn't that bad, and I agree with that. There was evidence to show that the lens was a little bit sharper when you were on the corners and edges versus when you're looking in the center, but in all the footage I got with this lens, I didn't notice any of that. So while it being sharper on the corners and edges may be true, I didn't notice it to really get in the way of my day-to-day filmmaking at all. Now, as for the lens flares for this lens, I liked them. I thought that it added character to the lens, and to be honest, I didn't have anything negative to say about it. I know that lens flaring is up to your preference, and some people hate all lens flares, other people love them. I'm pretty much in the middle of that. However, I did enjoy this lens flare, but you may not like it yourself. That's up for you to decide. Now, moving on to the bad things. Okay, so moving back to the autofocusing points, there was something that I noticed about that. When you have the autofocus transition speed set to high, then there's a weird focus jittering effect where it almost doesn't know quite how to focus right when you're moving back and forth between something in the foreground and something in the background. I found it primarily happening when you set the autofocus transition speed to 6 or 7. Anything lower than that and I didn't notice anything. Negative point number 2 about this lens is the fact that there is some pretty heavy chromic aberration from time to time. When it's there, you really notice it, but it's not always going to be there. I mainly saw it in this short film that I made that you should definitely go and check out, and it wasn't there all the time. However, there are some scenes where I definitely noticed it, and I hear a lot of times people don't like it, and some people think that it gives the lens character, and that is once again up to interpretation. However, it is my job to tell you that it is there. There is some chromatic aberration on this lens. I will say, for as cheap as I got this lens for, which was like $316, I believe, I am willing to put up with the fact that it has chromatic aberration, even if I don't love that feature, just because that was such a great deal. And I can buy 2 of these lenses for the price of 1 full frame camera lens, which is awesome. Another bad thing that I don't like about this lens is the fact that it has really bad autofocusing when you're taking photos. I was using this for portraits a while ago because I set my Tamron, auto correction. Because I was sending my Tamron 17 to 70 millimeter lens in to get it fixed, and so I was using this lens, and there were a lot of cases where I went to take the photo and it like didn't know where to focus, and it was like going in and out, and basically it meant that I literally could not use autofocus to take portraits. So what I did to fix that was I cranked the f-stop way up, and then I just used manual focusing, and then when I was editing the portraits, I just blurred the background in post, because Lightroom has that really awesome blur background feature. So that made it where you couldn't tell that it actually had a high f-stop. However, it was a lot more work and really frustrating when I was trying to use this lens to take portraits, and it kept on messing up. That was just annoying. Okay. These are all the negative things I found when testing this lens. There weren't many, and if I'd known these things before. So really, those are all the negative things about this lens that I found. If I had known all of those things going in when buying this lens, I probably would have bought it anyway. And that's because of the fact that it's so fairly priced. I'm willing to put up with 1 or 2 things that aren't optimal just because of the fact that it's such a good deal. Overall, I really enjoyed using this lens, and in the next couple days, I plan on getting the next lens, a 23mm, to add to my collection. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And real quick, before you guys click off of this video, if you could double check that you're subscribed. I'm willing to bet that a lot of you guys think you're subscribed, but you're actually not, and that would just help me out so much if I could get to a bajillion subscribers. That's my goal, and I would love to hit it by tomorrow. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, I really appreciate you guys watching this video, and I'll see you guys later. God bless. I am thirsty.